House Republicans yesterday abruptly pulled a planned vote on limiting President Trump's war powers in Iran as it became clear that the party lacked the votes they would need to defeat it. Majority Leader Steve Scalise told reporters the vote was delayed to give members who were absent a chance to vote, punting consideration of the measure until after the Memorial Day recess. So we'll see him in over a week. But Democrats are calling out the move. Democratic Congressman Greg Meeks, who sponsored the resolution, said Democrats, quote, had the votes without question and Republicans knew, and as a result, played a political game, said they're cheating. Top House Democratic leaders called the cancellation cowardly, writing in a statement, quote, even as we prepare to recognize our nation's fallen heroes on Memorial Day, House Republicans refuse to show up and be accountable to the brave service members they've been recklessly put in harm's way. This comes after a similar war powers resolution advanced this week in the Senate after a handful of Republicans broke with the party there. Speaking of the Senate, Republicans are rejecting the DOJ's $1.8 billion so-called anti-weaponization fund. GOP lawmakers met with Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche yesterday in what was a contentious 2-hour meeting to discuss the money. Sources described the talk to Semaphore as a, quote, shit show, and sometimes the word is just so apt. Following the meeting, several Senate Republicans spoke publicly against the fund. Senator Lisa Murkowski of Alaska told Notice the White House dropped a bomb with that plan. Former Majority Leader Mitch McConnell called it utterly stupid, morally wrong. You can pick one, he said in a statement to Punchbowl. And Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin called the fund a, quote, galactic blunder. The discontent with the fund was so strong among Republicans, some signaled they'd be willing to cross the aisle to support Democratic amendments aimed at blocking it, which is why it derailed the entire day's schedule, forcing Republican leadership to scrap all planned votes on their reconciliation package and send lawmakers home early ahead of Memorial Day weekend. The Senate will now have a week-long recess before coming back to Washington to deal with this whole mess. Joining me here at the table, my colleague, MS Now congressional reporter Michael Schnell. Weird day on the Hill, I think, to put it lightly. And a lot of them are weird, but this one, I wonder if we will look back on as an inflection point because it's an example of, in both chambers, the president's will being lost to what lawmakers are now saying they want. So let's start first in the House. On this war powers resolution, where it looked like they would have had the votes to hem in what the president can unilaterally do on Iran, all of a sudden, no, we're going to wait.
Yeah, Nancy Pelosi is famous for saying, don't go to the floor unless you know what the outcome is going to be. And you want your parties, that your party wants that outcome. This was not the case for Mike Johnson. We knew that this war powers resolution vote was scheduled to happen yesterday. And each time we've seen these votes, we've gotten closer to potential success. The last time we saw Congressman Brian Fitzpatrick, the moderate Republican from Pennsylvania. He voted in favor of curtailing the president's authority in Iran. And there was this question of, well, now that we're well past that 60-day mark, could we potentially see some more GOP defections? We knew that we were going to see another Democratic support from Jared Golden. He is the moderate Democrat from Maine, someone who previously voted against this. So by all indications, it seemed like this war powers resolution was in the best shape it's been to potentially passing. And then the vote before, we saw that there were a number of absences, around 8 on the Republican side. And of course, when you're dealing with such a razor-thin majority in the House, some absences could be make or break for Republicans. At the end of the day, House GOP leadership decided to scrap this vote. They say that they're going to hold it again after recess. But I mean, it sort of underscores the idea of, like, you can't stave off this reality forever, right? Like, yes, these GOP leaders were able to punt this vote for now, but it seems like it's conventional and possible that in the near future we could see some success with this war powers resolution. I will note, as we both know, very much so symbolic and won't have any teeth to it. This would still have to pass the Senate, which it got a little bit closer this week, but you still have to clear that 60-vote threshold. And then President Trump is more than likely to veto this, which means you need 2/3 support to override that veto, which is not going to happen. But still, when we talk about politics and sending a message, a huge deal if this war powers resolution does pass when the House returns.
Absolutely, especially when you see people like Bill Cassidy, fresh off of his loss in the primary that Trump very much was an agitator against. You're starting to see the consequences of, all right, the president might be fine pushing his detractors in primaries, but there are consequences as they finish out the rest of their term. And we're also seeing that now in the Senate as these senators say no to the ballroom and no to this slush fund, which would allow people who ransacked the Capitol on January 6th and assaulted cops in the process to come back and say, OK, the government should pay me money for facing the consequences to my legal actions. And yet now we're seeing Republicans potentially push back.
Yeah. Yeah, so this was essentially the undercurrent of what scrapped GOP's plans yesterday to move forward with this reconciliation bill. And let's remember, these are a number of different topics. The reconciliation bill is ICE and Border Patrol funding.
It was supposed to be.
It was supposed to be. And this is the thing that President Trump put that June 1st deadline on, which, you know, Republicans up on Capitol Hill, they take that seriously when the president puts a deadline on the table. But essentially what happened here was this anti-weaponization fund was such a curveball for Republicans up on Capitol Hill. Once it was unveiled, a number of them knew that they were opposed, A, and B, they needed to do something about it. So Senate Republicans were pushing for some sort of guardrail in the bill or in general to try and sort of curtail this slush fund, as a number of people are calling it. And then there was this thought that, well, there are going to be a number of Democratic-led amendments to try and block this fund. Will Republicans join on to it? Will it be a blow to the president? GOP leadership? At the end of the day, they couldn't work through this snafu, and that's the reason why we saw that vote being scrapped. And by the way, it came, as you mentioned, after a 2-hour meeting with the acting attorney general up on Capitol Hill. They had given GOP senators a memo essentially explaining it to give more information. I spoke to Susan Collins after that meeting, and she, even after a 2-hour meeting, seeing a memo from the DOJ, it wasn't enough for her. She still said she needed more information. So certainly a curveball that was thrown up on Capitol Hill. And the point you point out about these Republicans who are targeted by the president successfully, we say it as a joke, but it really is serious. They're sort of part of the YOLO caucus now.
No, yeah, 100%.
In the sense of they're not tethered by re-election and the threat of the president's wrath. So they could be a real problem for GOP leadership as we're down this stretch.
I do think that the ultimate question for us becomes, is this something that is just right now and a week of recess lets the steam out of the pot and people come back much more ready to fall in line with the president as they have for the past year and a half? Or is this something that has a longer tail to it? What is your early sense?
Usually it has a longer tail to it. Usually it's not good when you let members of Congress sort of sit with their feelings and they find more reasons to not like a bill, more reasons to steam about whatever issue is at hand. So if I were a betting person, I'd say it's probably not too helpful. Also, there's now not a hard deadline for reconciliation because when they come back, it's going to be past June 1st, which means this thing could completely spiral out of control.
Yeah, exactly. You and I were talking to sources yesterday who said, yeah, it's going to be one of the early days when we come back. And I'm like, oh, you think the problems are just going to dissipate as soon as you come back to town? I have a feeling hearing from constituents at all of the Memorial Day parades and events that they're going to have might make this harder, not easier, especially with the president's priorities. MS Now congressional reporter Michael Schnell. It was a rollicking day. Thank you.
It always is.